Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean and Here with me, as usual, Mr. Mark Morrison.
Howdy.
And well, if you're listening on audio or haven't guessed it, we will be talking about South of Midnight, which technically releases tomorrow for everybody that wants to not pay for the early access or just wants to play it on Game Pass. Mark has more Assassin's Creed Shadows thoughts. Lots more Nintendo Switch 2 news, as that was pretty much this entire week, just the fallout from Nintendo Switch 2 announcement. Some things for Xbox, Marathon's getting a gameplay reveal, and much more right here. And we're going to talk about all those things right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing out of the way. Housekeeping. Apparently, now you have to have a certain amount of following on your Facebook page to be able to do a live. So, if you do happen to watch this live, which we do the show around 8:30 to 9 o'clock Eastern time on Mondays, most of the time you can watch us live on YouTube at W2 Network or Twitch W2 Network, and of course you can just watch it later on demand on YouTube whenever you'd want. If you follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff, you can get notifications for when we do an episode. So that's always helpful. You can, of course, just listen on podcasts as well, anywhere there are podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all those places there are podcasts. We are there. Subscribe, leave us a review on there if you'd like. That would help us out a lot. Also, we did do the Nintendo Switch 2 direct, like, separate show, which should be in your feeds if you subscribe, or it's on the YouTube channel. So if you wanted to watch or listen to our thoughts, along with Randy, who joined us, um, we talked about an hour about, basically what happened a few hours after the direct. So we were still trying to find out some information at that point that's now been revealed, many days later. So we'll talk about all that. I guess let's go ahead and start with the video games. Mark, what's how's the Assassin's Creed Shadows a week later?
It's all right. The way I built my character, especially now, I'm kind of unkillable, so that's kind of fun. Uh,
That's
yeah,
always
I'm slowly whittling the circles down. Although I got like 4 more new ones, so it's a great, even more people to kill apparently. So there's now like 13 or 14 different hidden evil, you know, agencies or whatever in the game. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, I still like it. Uh, I'll keep hammering away at it.
and nothing new since that you've experienced this last week or whatever that makes you feel any different about the
I mean,
game,
I
or
I do kind of like Yasuke as a character now. Like they got like more into depth in him, but I still don't like playing as him, so that's kind of a bummer.
that's, I mean, at least you appreciate him as a character. That's
Well,
better than not liking him at all. So
I didn't mind him in the first place, but yeah, like he has like he actually does have some growth, which is good, but like still playing as him kind of sucks. And it has like really weird mini games with it with both characters, where like hers is like this like really weird. Remember the gym mini game from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or remake?
yes.
It's kind of like that. Like you're just pressing buttons in order, like up, down, circle, L1, and you kind
Mhm.
of got to do it like faster. You got to do it like 8 or 9 times, and eventually the buttons like go away, and it becomes this like art mosaic looking thing. Uh so his is different because you have to do like 3 sets of these button presses, and it's like Simon Says, and it's like just
Okay.
the most like dull thing you can imagine, and it's like there's over 40 of these I think probably in this game, so great.
That's always fun.
Yeah, but I still like it.
been playing anything else there?
Not that I can talk about.
Right. You did tell me you have an embargo game there, so
Right.
I'm
And
gonna go ahead. Sorry.
I literally just got like 2 hours ago also. So
Nice. Always cool to find out just in the nick of time there. You did
yeah.
go to a convention.
Yeah, I
today.
did. It was like it wasn't the biggest one in my state, but it was probably the second biggest one. Uh the few people I wanted to see there were Bruce Campbell, got his autograph, and he had like a really long line. Uh Jason Lee, you know who he is?
Yes.
Yeah, he was there, along with like most of the main cast from My Name is Earl.
Nice.
A former Yellow Power Ranger was there, so I saw her and had her sign something.
That's
Uh,
cool.
and the two wrestlers I saw were Joe Hendry and Danhausen.
One Sting, right?
Well, I didn't see Sting. I saw him from like the side, but I didn't get in his line because it was also like really long.
Oh, I'm sure.
Um,
Yeah, that was nuts.
and it was funny because they had three pretty popular female wrestlers. Like they had Lita, Trish Stratus, and Britt Baker,
Oh, cool.
and they were all like the same. They were all in like the corner of the room, so
Yeah.
you couldn't get in that corner because there was, it was basically like a swarm of people. It's like, shouldn't you spread this out a little? Like, wouldn't that have been a little better? Uh, Also, Kevin Nash was there.
Hey, Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
Feels like he always goes to these things.
I didn't see him because it would have been sad because it's like old man yelling at the sky type of thing. But Bret Hart was there.
Oh, Bret Hart. Okay. Hey, that's cool.
Uh,
That's a pretty great group of wrestlers there to have in one.
Yeah, and I also didn't see him because his line was also super long, like outside the room long. But
Yeah.
Tommy Chong was there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool. I was only there for like 2 hours also because I got there when it opened, and after like an hour and a half, I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like,
Yeah. Don't blame you.
yeah.
All right. Anything else you
I
want to talk
picked up a
about
copy
here?
of Persona 2 Japanese today.
Hey, that's awesome because who knows when that's ever gonna get remastered or remade here. So
And I was gonna pick up a copy. Well, I did. Need for Speed Most Wanted, like the old one, the PC version. The store had it for $20. I was like, sweet, I like that game.
nice.
I'm sure you could pirate it on PC, but I'd like to own a copy. And it's like really moddable now, also. And I had my laptop with me for another reason, for something else. But I was
Right.
like, let's see how well this game runs. So I quickly tried to install it. And I say tried to install it because it didn't have the manual, and the manual had the CD key.
No.
So I couldn't install it.
Ah, that sucks.
And I took it back to the store, and they gave me a refund. But they gave me a refund for like, it was like 1907, and they gave me a
Yeah.
refund for like 1781 or something. And they're like, oh, it's I'm not counting the tax. And I was like, well, you
Yeah.
took the tax from me. Like, that's part of it,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't
So
argue with the guy, but I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like, but
probably some
I was
like clerical thing that they can't take
right.
that out or something.
So Song of the South or whatever it's called, or song
Heck,
whatever.
please, that's terrible. That's, no, it's
No,
not.
uh,
South of
what is it?
Midnight.
South of Midnight. Is it better than We Happy Few?
Yeah, this is definitely without question Compulsion's best game. No doubt.
Of the three?
Of the three, yeah. I mean, it has the hallmarks of the typical thing with Compulsion games issues. You make a great world that people kind of want to be in, have a cool like art style,
Yeah,
some really good some fantastic music. The gameplay falters a bit.
right.
Which is, the same thing that is an issue with their other two games,
Yeah,
especially We Happy Few. I've Contrast is a game that I played for a little bit. I can't really speak on, but we have if you had a big problem with that.
Yep.
This game to be just putting it out there, being from the South, half my family is from Arkansas, so it's cool to see the South represented in a game. You don't see that very often. Like Mafia 3 is set in New Orleans, and I think Alone in the Dark, the original, is set in the South, and there's a few other games, but it's not a laundry list, especially
Right.
Southern Gothic type stuff, which they do a fantastic job of really giving you the folklore. Like, the Boo Hag exists. Two-toed Tom, that's an actual folklore story. And they represent that well. It's their own take on it. They're not just carbon copying it. The Haints which are the main force of evil that you face in this game, are the most of what you're fighting in the arenas.
Yeah.
They just don't have enough variety in them, sadly. And then also there's a skill tree, but the problem is that until you get to like near the end of the game is when you finally feel like, oh, this combat system kind of starts coming together.
Right.
Until then, it's kind of repetitive. You're dodging. There's no block. There's no parry. It's you're dodging. You're doing a couple of moves, rinse and repeat. Move out of the way when they do their unblockable attack. You do get this cool little doll creature that looks like he could have came out of Nightmare Before Christmas, because this has a stop motion art style, which is fantastic. It's really well done. But his name is Crouton, and you can use him to take control of enemies, basically like mind control them for a little while. So you can actually I like to use it on like the really fast Haint, and then he'll go over and knock out the big one or whatever for you. So that helps you, so you don't have to, because eventually it gets to the point where it's like there's not a variety, but what they do is they just put a lot of Haints into the one area, and you kind of have to deal with it. It's never too difficult. It's that you can eventually, like, I died because I lost track of my health, and then they do have like one heal that's in every area that you can use whenever you want. So you kind of have to figure that out for yourself when you want to use it. And also every time you kill an enemy, you can also like unravel them and get a little bit of health back every time you kill them. So that helps. But like I said, it isn't until like at least halfway. I'm in chapter 8. There's 14 chapters. The game is like around 12 to 15 hours long, depending on how much you want to explore and stuff. But I would recommend doing that because the platforming is kind of fun in this game as well, because you do get to like you have double jump, and then you eventually get to glide and stuff like that. So that's fun. Like the boss battles aren't anything out of this world amazing, but they do have like their set piece moments that you go through, and then they kind of make the combat a little bit more fun too. But this is definitely a game that, if the style vibes with you, if the art style is something you're into, if the music is fantastic, the Hazel is a wonderful character, and all the voice acting is really well done. This is like one of those that's like everything around the game is worth checking out. It's just the combat can kind of wear on you after a while. There are parts of it where it's like it's very obvious where the combat is going to happen. The problem is that you have to do the combat to get the little story sequences done with each of the separate characters. And then also the ending kind of isn't the greatest also, from what I've seen. So that will probably leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. It feels like maybe they didn't get to finish the game the way they wanted to, because the side characters don't seem to kind of mesh with each other. So that's also an issue. Like, you're going through these different character stories and they're all kind of interesting, right? But then it's like there's no flow to why you're seeing many of these characters. There's a certain one that obviously makes sense in the context of the story that I don't want to spoil, but it's like I wish it had more cohesion with the story as far as that goes. But look, I've really enjoyed it. It's one of the games I was really anticipating from this year, and I think they delivered on that. I don't know if they're going to let them do DLC. I don't know if there's going to be a second game in this. But I do think Hazel works as a great character. Like, she could be a mascot for Xbox or whatever.
She can battle Aloy from Sony.
Yeah, maybe, but just I just appreciate being from the South, hearing the language, hearing all of that. They did all that so well. And I gotta give them props for that. I'm not reviewing the game or anything. I think I'm not sure who reviewed it for Outer Haven, but they have a review up there. But I would say like a 7 is pretty great I think it's pretty noble for this game. I think you could bump it up to an 8 if everything else kind of, is much better for you. It's just that I think the combat kind of keeps it from being like a great game or whatever. But still,
you know what it reminds me of?
Yeah, go ahead.
Enslaved Odyssey to the West.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
because that was like another good game where art looks good, story's great, but combat and gameplay is a little more iffy.
Yeah, exactly. And it does kind of guide you a lot as well. So there's that. You're not really going to get lost because you can just hit the right joystick and it will give you like a little line that you can follow. So there's that too. It's not like you're going to spend hours and hours going in circles. So that means the puzzles are kind of rather basic and things like that too. But again, this is really meant for you to experience the story. So I do appreciate when gameplay doesn't like detract from that, but obviously it could have been a bit more challenging if you wanted to. They do have difficulty levels, so I'm not sure if maybe you played on hard, if it's a little bit kind of more challenging that way, but still. I'm excited to see if anything else happens with South of Midnight. Hopefully we'll get lucky and maybe Compulsion gets to finish out the game with some DLC or something, but obviously it depends on its reception. It was $10 for the early access. Obviously by now, by the time you're listening to it, it's already out. So you don't have to pay for that, but for being a $40 game, it wasn't a full price game. I think they did a great job there. It's just, I worry about the fact that did a lot of people that got early access not play it very much, or isn't a lot of people that got early access because every time I went through a chapter, because you get achievements for completing the chapters, obviously, I got one of those, like, it makes that rare diamond sound or whatever. Right. So it kind of makes me worry for the, when you get to the actual games for release, but it does have some good reviews as well. So maybe that will help out. Yeah. There. But all right. That's kind of my thoughts on South of Midnight there. I guess we can go ahead and get into the news. Gonna hold off on Switch stuff just because we're already talking about an Xbox game. The Game Pass does have their stuff coming out for the 1st of this month, aside from South of Midnight, which obviously comes out or is out now or comes out tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this here. Borderlands 3 Ultimate Edition, I think, is the other major game that is out on everything. It's standard Ultimate PC Game Pass. All You Need Is Help is also coming. Still Wakes the Deep is out for standard. It was only exclusive to Ultimate, along with World War II. And there's now the Ultimate Evil edition of Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls, which is going to be coming to Ultimate. So if you're kind of over Diablo 4 and you want to go back to Diablo 3, I guess you can do that as well. Commando's Origins also comes out on the 9th. Blueprints, which has gotten great reviews. It has like a 92 on Metacritic and OpenCritic right now. That's coming to PS Plus as well. But it is coming to Game Pass. So you can check that out if you like on Ultimate or PC Game Pass. And then Hunt Showdown 1896. It's also coming to Ultimate on April 15th. Speaking of stop motion, Harold Halibut, the other stop motion like narrative game, that's leaving Game Pass on the 15th. So if you wanted to check that out, it's not a long game. Definitely go do that. Orcs Must Die 3 is leaving, Turbo Golf Racing, Botany Manor, some other stuff as well. So speaking of coming to Game Pass, at any point this month, according to Jeff Grubb, we could get another Game Pass drop in the form of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake. We've talked about this a few times, but do you still think it's kind of weird that's a pretty big game to just like shadow drop it like that, right? Like you wouldn't announce it or make a big deal about this game's coming?
No, because it's a bad game. So, or the bones of it, Oblivion is a bad game. So, you're gonna try to muster some. This is the best way to do it, I guess.
I mean, but this has been like remade in Unreal 5, and they've changed some of the gameplay and reworked some of the gameplay systems. So maybe this will be a better game.
Are there more than 2 environments, which is Forest and Oblivion Gate? Does the story not suck? Does it not end in like some weird dragon animality fight?
Yeah, that's probably not changing, I'd imagine.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, I didn't play the early Elder Scrolls games, but I loved Morrowind. That's still my favorite one. I did too. And yeah. Skyrim's fine. I didn't finish it. I don't think I finished it, and that's just like quote unquote finished it, but it was good. But yeah, I really hate Oblivion.
Yeah, gonna be interesting because that seems to be kind of a lot of people's thoughts of either you hate Oblivion or you really love Oblivion. So we'll see whenever it does shadow drop. Yeah,
I think the people that like love Oblivion are gonna get a rude awakening. I mean, I'd be much happier if it was like Morrowind remastered. Then I'd be on board.
Also, and a surprise. Maybe it's not a surprise. Maybe it is. I don't know. Minecraft movie apparently did way more than any analysts were saying, because I think the most analysts were saying it would make was 90 million domestic, and it made 146 million domestic, which broke the Super Mario Brothers movie record by a few million or so.
Right.
This, of course, Jack Black, Jason Momoa in this movie. And then also it wound up doing like internationally 301 million, which is pretty fantastic. It didn't break the Mario record there, but still, it's a movie that has like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. So critics didn't really like it, but obviously being a huge game and having a huge child fan base helps a lot. To the point where I guess some of the children and unruly teens that went to the movie had to get escorted out by police. Do you have any interest in seeing this at all, or?
No, I don't care about Minecraft whatsoever. I mean, it has like less of a. It doesn't have a story,
Right.
It's literally the whole crux. It's very. From what I gather, it's a very boilerplate story or plot. And,
I heard that like there was a lot of cheering anytime Jack Black would mention some known Minecraft thing, apparently.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like me. It's like Meme the movie or something like that. He mentioned some arcane thing from the game that only Minecraft fans will know. So I'm cheer for that.
I do like Jack Black and Jason Momoa. I don't know if it's not a game that Anaya is particularly big on, so I know it's not like. But she's also not a Sonic fan at all. But she likes those Sonic movies, right? She hasn't mentioned to me anything. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, Sonic has like a level of quality that
definitely
this thing doesn't. Yeah.
I mean, she's still like we watched it. We ended up watching on Paramount because we actually had gone the last week that it was in our theater here, and then something happened and we couldn't watch it. Wound up being there late, and then they took it out of the theater by the time we got to the next season. So we didn't get to see it in the theater, but we did watch it on Paramount. I feel like that's going to wind up happening a Minecraft movie for me at least. Just watch it when it gets on streaming. But hey, it's good for video game movies in general when you get big hits like this. it means that not only you get Minecraft Movie 2 or whatever, it means that I'm sure Epic is maybe getting convinced about a Fortnite movie at this point, or some other franchise.
No, you're like half right. Like, it's good that it did well financially, but like critically, it's Mortal Kombat, I think, did better, like the original one.
Right, but what matters is the monetary success. No one can. At the end of the day, no one's going to remember that critics hated the movie. What's going to matter is the box office success, and that's what's going to what's going to make it to where you can have other video game movies, right?
Yeah, but if they're all like on the same level of quality as this thing, that's the depressing part.
I agree with you, but I mean, it's still going to be that rare case. It's like the Marvel movies, right? Or not most of them are not amazing freaking films. Most of them are kind of
I mean, most. I'm not the recent stuff like Phase 4 and beyond, but like Phases 1, 2, and 3. You might have like the occasional dud, like Thor: Dark World, but like most of them were on a level. Iron Man 3 is, you mean Iron Man 2. Iron Man 3 was a good one.
Oh, 2, yeah, sorry. Confused.
But like they were all of like a general high quality of both, critics and audiences. So, if we're gonna get crap like, I mean, a movie review show like Red Letter Media like really examined the movie, and they called it like a roller coaster ride. But it's like that's not great, because like if it's so if it's just so plotting and boring, like that's not great. And it's also just like keeps like mining old intellectual IP for ideas,
Yeah. I mean, by and large, I think as much as we would love to have most of those movies be Last of Us, the TV show, or the Mario movie, or something like that, most of them are still going to probably fall in the same realm as like the Uncharted movie, where it's fine. Or Mortal Kombat, the first,
the recent one,
like where it's okay, it's fine, like it's a passable movie. It's not the dredge of the earth like those other video game movies have been in the past. At least we're getting to like more of a passable level of video game movies, so that's positive, at least.
Yeah.
But sadly, we got to talk about some disheartening news here. A former Blizzard staffer, like the last thing he did was oversee the art direction for Overwatch 2 before leaving the company in October 2021 is Bill Petrus. He's passed away, according to Harley Huggins and on a LinkedIn post. He also did a lot of artwork for World of Warcraft as well. And having worked at Blizzard for a long time, working in games in general for 24 years, still sad to see.
Blizzard art style is still, pretty solid, more or less. Although I think Overwatch 2 is kind of the exception at this point. But
I mean, it's definitely an art style that, like, okay, that's a Blizzard game, especially WoW, right? Like, okay, what that is. And for him to have helped like build that's still something that, you can point to and say that's an amazing feat right there.
Yeah.
However you feel about the game nowadays, still just always sad to see someone passing away so young. And especially when you're like, basically you have left the company, you're kind of doing your own thing at that point, and just sucks.
Yep.
Speaking of mixed feelings, who knows what we're going to be experiencing when we get gameplay on Saturday for Bungie's marathon. They put out a teaser for it that at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 p.m. Eastern, they're going to do a stream on Twitch, which is going to show you what this extraction shooter is going to be doing, what you're going to be doing in the game. Last we heard, this was going to get a $40 price tag. Don't know if Concord has made Sony relent on that, But any thoughts on? You think we might get some interesting stuff from Marathon, or
I doubt it. I expect it to be another looter, like extraction shooter, and completely missing the point of original Marathon.
yeah, just the fact that they're changing it from what Marathon was already got a lot of the original players kind of upset, and then the fact that you're changing it into something that has so many games already.
Right.
How are you going to differentiate yourself from what's already out there? Considering you already have, Destiny 2 has its own issues, and you still got to be working on that. So, look, Beth, I don't want to see any, especially with how kind of delicate things are for Bungie right now, where if they have a major loss, who knows what Sony's doing with them.
Well, I mean, they fired the friend of mine who was working on the game got fired. So
yeah, and obviously they had to change game directors because
right
of what happened with
unpleasantness. Yes,
one Mr. Barrett. But look, I don't want to see more people lose their jobs. So hopefully there's some good buzz, at least for the developers. Yeah. Do I personally care about what happens in Marathon? No. But it's never a good thing for the industry to just see another. And Bungie's, a major player in this space as far as the live service, all that, to have them go down even further.
Right.
If this game doesn't hit it. So,
yep.
But we'll see. I guess we'll talk about that next week if there's anything interesting that comes out of that. But all right, the rest of this is going to be Switch 2 stuff. Did you watch any of the Treehouse?
No.
Stuff from any of the games? No? All right, fair enough. There was some. I wanted to watch more, but I was trying to get further in South of Midnight, and also had to work. So, from what I could watch I watched I think Mario Kart World, DK, Kirby's Forgotten Land, a few other things. Number one, the Nintendo Switch 2 welcome tour is apparently going to be $10.
Yeah,
that's according to what they showed of the welcome tour thing, which there's apparently a lot more mini games that they didn't show in that thing. That's the reason why this cost $10. The ones they did show, which is like you get to play Mario 1-1 as a way to show you how 4K works, which is
that's
okay.
Not. Yeah, like, who cares? Like, I mean, if it was okay, we remade Mario World, the first one in 4K. Like, I could see that, but it's just like a level from it. Like,
Yeah. They also have like a mini game where you're a shell and you get to go through and pick up stars or whatever.
Dude, this is the type of thing that like it should be like the first run of Switch 2.
This should be free. Like I just don't get why it needs to cost $10.
Or at least has a code you can download it for free. Like, but only like the first run. It's remember it's a different tactic, but like remember the ambassador program to get people to buy the 3DS back in the day.
Yeah,
it's like it gives people an incentive to buy the thing, and they will do it.
I mean, I get it that Reggie Fils-Aimé had to convince everyone to put Wii Sports in as a pack-in or whatnot. They weren't going to do it, and I get it that like Nintendo doesn't really have that kind of person right now that's kind of going up to bat, and then Iwata's not there either, who's very front-facing, very consumer-focused. Everybody that's there is kind of either they're there as a game developer or like the Miyamoto, or just kind of you're a figurehead, but you're really not in that anymore. So like it's very corporate almost. It feels like Nintendo. You don't get the faces of people talking, the people that do these directs. Okay, cool that we get to meet you. We got to meet some younger people on this this last one, but it's like none of them have that personality that Reggie had or Iwata or even a younger Miyamoto or whatever. So it's like you kind of get that feeling of, well, we got to put a price on this somewhere, and it's like, really, do you? I mean, why does it hurt to have I mean, I get it now with this this stuff with the tariffs and all that stuff doesn't really help. But it's like,
Right.
give people a pack-in game. If you're gonna make a game that shows you the new things that are with the Switch 2, and then you're gonna include some demos to let people figure that out. I mean, it's just that screams pack-in game.
Yeah. Like I wasn't a huge fan of the original, but I mean, you and everyone else loved Astro's Playroom.
I mean, Astro's Playroom is great, and it has way more gameplay than this thing does.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. You know, I just don't. It's like Sony beat you at your own game, and you just, I don't know. This just feels like Nintendo being really anti-consumer. So,
well, that was the last time Nintendo had a pack-in game, though. That was like a legitimate, not like a bundle, but just here it is in the console.
Wii Sports, I think. Wii Sports.
Yeah.
Right, because Mario Kart 8 got bundled in, but that
I mean, they even started shipping bundles a week, like the week later on, though. They didn't even have that. I mean,
right. So. And they stopped it at that because then they made you buy the Wii Sports Resort and all the other.
And it's funny, like Wii Sports kind of goes for a premium these days. Like it's not like outrageously expensive, but it's at least $20 like a used game store.
Yeah,
and that was a pack-in like that. That should be like the most common game ever, but apparently not.
But that game helped so many people want to buy a Wii. I'm not saying that Welcome Tour is going to do that for the Switch 2, nor do you really need that. Most people have played a Switch at this point, but it's just like, still, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Mario Kart World is going to feature remade old courses, so it's not like every course is going to be new. They've like changed things around, added new routes that you're going to take. The free roam also allows you to basically like practice levels so you can find the hidden ramps and things in the course. And you can even go on water or the air without being grabbed by the little Koopa guy that takes you over there. So that's kind of decent. They still really haven't shown like, I guess it probably doesn't show well. And I get it that they do have this Mario Kart World Direct in about 10 days that they obviously want to really promote. So I get that they're not showing everything, but they really haven't shown you much still of they always, every time they show a world or whatever from Mario Kart World, they go, oh, we're going to drive to it. And it's like, you're not driving to it. You automatically got to the course and you're already doing the course again. So it's like, I really want to see how this free roaming thing works and what you're going to be doing that, Doug Bowser went and said that they're justifying the $80 because of this and all of the other new stuff that they're putting into this. So we'll see.
See some reviewer go, when it comes out, be like, this is like a $40 game, or like
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Just like Skull and Bones.
Yeah. The first quadruple A game, right? They do have Treehouses for Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 editions, but I watched the one for Kirby's Forgotten Land.
Forget all that. Talk about Rhythm Heaven Fever, goddammit.
Yeah, they didn't show that one at least. That one has new mouthful modes. It is going to have 1080p, 60 FPS, and it can go up to 1440p in dock mode, so that one will not do 4K. And it's going to have extra ways for you to navigate the levels and stuff like that. So it seemed pretty cool from what I saw. Also, apparently, the Switch 2 editions will not have the game key cards that people were all up in arms about. It will be the full game on the disc. They also announced, along with this, I'm just mentioning it because they asked Doug Bowser or Bill Trennan, I can't remember which one, about achievements. And Bill Trennan said no. There will be no achievements console-wide. A lot of people wanted them to add that finally for Switch 2. It's not happening. There are going to be achievements very much like Xenoblade Chronicles X has in both the Zelda games. But apparently you have to use the app to get the achievements, which is stupid, but whatever.
They finally got video chat working after 20 long years that they can't get achievements working.
Is that really I mean, I know you're kind of here and there with trophies. Like, Does that make you play the game more or less if the Nintendo did put in achievements or?
It might, because I could see Nintendo doing a trophy system that just like stupid easy.
Right.
Beat the game, get 100 trophies or something like that. Uh, it doesn't like. It'd be nice. Like Fire Emblem Three Houses would have had a really good trophy system, but no, they don't care.
Yeah.
Or to compare with your friends, like it's like a social thing. They're all about that crap.
Exactly. I mean, I get it. I get why they don't want devs to feel like they have to put it in because a lot of times you do have dumb achievements, right?
Sure.
But and I
They
know it's not needed, but still.
should call them like experiences. That'll be their new buzzword instead of trophies or
There you go.
achievements.
Interesting. A Korean site also showed a different cover art of the Donkey Kong Bonanza game that has Pauline on it. Of course, she was in the original Donkey Kong game, so it makes sense that she would be there. But yeah, if that's supposed to be true, interesting that Nintendo has kind of held off on showing it so far.
I fully expect either one of two things. One is they show the rest of the Kong family, like Cranky and
Oh yeah, for sure,
Dixie and all that crap. And then B, there'll be some secret level or secret ending with Mario.
Yeah, would not be surprised at all if Mario.
Like if you get all the golden bananas, you face off against Mario, or that's how you that you kidnap Pauline again, or something like that.
Yeah. So there's others. I mean, they've done a Treehouse for like all the games. Like Metroid Prime 4 has one as well. If you're interested in that, so definitely go check out Nintendo's channel if you've been wanting to watch any kind of Switch 2 like footage and gameplay and stuff like that. Lots of different sites got to go and check out the system. So I know they're going to be doing those tours pretty soon, where just gamers can go check it out. But if you want some news, go find your favorite site. They probably have some info up on it as well. However, shortly after we did that Nintendo Direct show last week, we got news that there will be no pre-orders on April 9th for the United States. It's already been out pre-order in the UK and other regions because those are not affected by tariffs. The same day that Nintendo had their Direct, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, did his whole putting tariffs on every country conceivable. He really hurt Nintendo bad. I mean, even though they moved a lot of the Switch 2 manufacturing away from China, a lot of it's in Vietnam and Cambodia now, and they actually have already shipped a large number of the Switch 2s that are done into the United States to avoid tariffs, but obviously it will eventually be a problem.
Right.
So they had to cancel pre-orders in midst of having to rethink how this was going to affect the U.S. Also, just wanted to point out the first day of the Treehouse, when they show Mario Kart World at DK, every single person commenting on YouTube was saying, drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. Don't know if that has any effect on Nintendo at this point as well. But obviously, if this continues with these tariffs still being in place, they will not be able to do that. I'm sure they're also meaning drop the price of the games themselves, because Nintendo, once again, is the first one to come out and go, yeah, we're going to do $80 games. You're going to have to deal with it. What do you think about the tariff thing? Do you think it'll still be around when we're getting to June 5th? And how much do you think the Switch is going to cost now?
I think the entire thing's dumb. It's Trump, being a jackass like usual. And yeah. I think like the very first run of Switches, and I also think the pre-order will just be like a week before or something like that. Or it'll just be like a real big surprise. I think the first run of Switches will be 450 and 500. And then after that sold out, 600.
I feel like they're going to have to find a price and stick with it. I don't know if they can. Yeah.
They raise the price and then they say blame Trump.
Right. I mean, obviously, that's the point. And obviously, they could just do it to where, just like we've seen in other regions, right, where Xbox and PSI went up in other regions that didn't in the United States. They could very well do the opposite. They're doing that for Japan, right? Japan's console is region locked and costs way less than it does for everybody else. I think it's like 330 or 350, something like that.
Yeah.
So $100 less. Obviously, the yen is really bad right now, so they want people to buy the Switch too. So they're taking the price cut in order to get people to buy it in Japan. The Switch One was region free everywhere, so definitely they're trying to make sure that you're not getting people buying a Japanese version and then importing it
And,
or whatever.
no, you'll be buying the Mexican version. I'll be buying the Canadian version. And
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised considering how this administration has already done things. That the tariffs are diminished,
right.
or perhaps gone by the time we get to June 5th. And that this whole thing was just a stunt to get negotiations underway, which Japan already says they're doing. They are in a 24% tariff on exported goods right now. They said they're going to come up with a package to go and discuss with Trump and that administration as far as how to get this to work. Obviously, Nintendo being Japanese, this affects them. China right now is at 54%. Obviously, Trump has this thing with China right now. So it makes understandable that it's the highest, but it's still ridiculous.
Except for his hats.
Right. And then except we get almost everything from China, so it's still ridiculous. And then Vietnam is at like 46%, and then Cambodia is 49%. So like all of that is affecting Nintendo hugely. So yes, they do have to go back and rethink this. I just don't. I mean, I can see how they keep things the same for all the other regions, and then I could see the Switch 2 be somewhere in the 500 to 550 range, and of course that will price out a lot of people. I have to really think about it, especially if there's not an Amazon pre-order or there's not a way you can use one of these
Klarna,
buy now, pay later, Klarna, Affirm, all that stuff. To where I don't have to pay it all in one big chunk, because I definitely don't have somewhere around $600 to put out on a system like that. It would have to be something where I could pay, paid in parts.
Bring back the Kmart layaway.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure it might be a Walmart layaway option if we get to the
No,
holidays.
Walmart's never done that.
They did during the holidays. They do layaway. I don't know if they do it recently, but I do remember them doing it many years ago. So we'll have to see. Obviously, Nintendo, like you said, Mark, they could definitely just decide. They could decide randomly one day you wake up and go, "Oh, hey, pre-orders are happening right now in like 2 hours."
Right.
So they have time to figure this out, but at some point between now and June, they're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do. They're gonna have to set a price and maybe perhaps just say, depending on market conditions, we may lower the price later. Which obviously is not helpful for Nintendo because they want you to buy them as soon as possible.
Once a Democrat gets in office, we'll lower the price.
I still think that it's just like no way this goes through the whole 4 years. Like they're definitely gonna do some kind of price lowering before then. I wouldn't be surprised if it's by the time we get to the holidays they lower the price. Depending on how, because it's not just a number of the games are going to be more expensive. So
right,
that's already going to be a huge sticker shock for people. When you get to the console is now $550. Damn, I don't know if I can buy that. And then, oh man, to buy one game outside of Mario Kart World, I got to pay $70 or $80. Like, that's too much. When groceries and everything else is more expensive, you got to think about that. But the U.S. is a huge region when it comes to buying games, especially physical. So, it's understandable that they have to take this time to think. They can't. It'd be very weird for them to launch without the U.S. involved, which they could do as well, right? They could just launch it every other region and go, well, whenever this administration gets their crap together, we will launch the Switch 2. along with other news aside from that, also the stock prices went down for almost every single major Japanese company after this thing with the tariffs. Nintendo dropping like a whopping 7.85%, and I think Sony dropped even more, like 10%, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody's kind of getting hit with this right now. Obviously, Sony is much more of an American company nowadays, but they definitely with the leadership change, they went back to Japan being very important. So we'll see how that goes.
All right.
Talking about other Switch 2 things here. Other game devs, third-party game devs, are very happy with the horsepower the Switch 2 has. Specifically, they talked to Dennis Schwerk of the Civilization team and also some folks from the Avalanche team for Hogwarts Legacy about how Civ 7 is going to work great on Switch 2, especially with the mouse controls. And then Hogwarts Legacy, they talked about like how there's certain areas where on Switch 1 they had to have load times, and then on Switch 2 they don't have to have load times at all. So that's good. That's positive for the Switch. Obviously, Nintendo has come out and said they don't want to talk about teraflops and GPU and stuff like that. So they allowed NVIDIA to basically talk about it. NVIDIA did state the obvious that they are using DLSS and AI technology and stuff like that in
They
the
should
Switch
just say
2.
that it's all powered by magic or star power.
Right? As I don't have no idea what my dog is looking at over there. She's just like sitting up, but whatever. The Undertaker deal right now. Nintendo says that they're gonna support the Switch 1, basically depending on how it goes with, and I imagine the whole price increase is gonna have a big effect on this, is how much they see people moving from Switch 1 to Switch 2. We already know they're gonna do some games in 2026, but if there is a slower adoption rate, do they do what happened with Sony and with Xbox, where we see multiple years of some big games coming on Switch 1? Do you think that that's going to happen? You think we're going to see 2027, 2028 for Switch 1?
I mean,
maybe
you'll get like the occasional EA, like FIFA crap edition or whatever they put out, but I think the Switch 1 is going to be pretty much done because
you think so?
the PS4 and Xbox One compared to PS5 and Series X, like there is a power difference, but it's not incredibly major. And I think like there's more of a gulf between Switch 1 and Switch 2. And there should be,
definitely.
Because the Switch 1 was already old when it kind of came out. And
exactly.
They bled everything they could get from that thing, but there ain't no more blood in that stone. So
I mean, raw power wise, the Switch 2 is already old. When this comes out too, because it's like comparable to the PS4, and we're talking about in a year or two, we're talking about the Xbox Next, whatever that is, and the PlayStation 6. So
that's why I said on the earlier podcast, like I think like the Switch, third party support will be like 1 or 2 years, and then that'll be about it.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. Obviously, DLSS being in there and being able to make it to where you don't have to use all of the power of the Switch helps a lot more than the original Switch, which did not have that. And then obviously also having a better screen, better handheld that already does 1080p, that helps. The Switch game key cards, which make it to where you don't have to have the whole game on the console, on the actual physical thing, helps so that they can perhaps do some of the processing easier, where you have to download half the game or whatever, like you mentioned on the other show with like Call of Duty and probably Madden and such. So
right, like the cyclical games, but nothing new. Or
like I don't think Nintendo will go back to, we're gonna now make 3D Mario workable on the Switch 1, right? Like
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe perhaps like you get some smaller Nintendo franchises that they go, you know what, let's make this work on Switch 1. But I don't think like they're gonna any of the major one. Like I don't think Donkey Kong's all of a sudden gonna work on Switch 1 after they made it Switch 2
Right.
only, and same thing with Mario Kart World and stuff. Like they're still gonna have their Switch 2 only games because obviously you got to give people reasons to move over. If you make everything for Switch 1, nobody's gonna move, right? But if you have the games that people go, damn, you know, this is $80, but crap, I gotta play this, right? Like you're gonna buy that, right?
Right.
Maybe that Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition or Metroid Prime 4 or Pokemon ZA is not gonna do that for you. But when you get to that 3D Mario, or you get to that whatever the next Zelda thing is, or you get to the next, you know, the Gen 10 Pokemon or whatever other franchise that's Switch 2 only, yeah, that's gonna get people to move. I just eventually we're gonna get hopefully out of this thing where we're having economic issues where people can't feel like they can spend on this kind of stuff. And even then, really, that doesn't stop people. People still do it regardless. So we'll see how much this is going to sell. And it's not just all scalpers and whatever. One thing that may hurt the Switch 2 a lot is the battery life. Very much like the original Switch. I still have the launch Switch, so I've never had my Switch go more than 3.5 hours.
Right.
Now the one where they remade with the better battery goes up to like 4.5, 5, regardless of the game. I think it can go up to 9 hours if you're playing like only indie games or something. This one is going to be worse than the original Switch, 2 to 6.5 hours, depending on the game you're playing. And I think they've already said something about if you're playing Donkey Kong or probably Mario Kart World, you may not last more than like 2 or 3 hours. And then it's going to take 3 hours for the game to charge, for the system to charge completely in sleep mode. Obviously, that's handheld. If you're in the dock, I'd imagine it's the same thing as always. As long as it has some kind of battery, you'll still be able to play it docked. I don't know if that the AC adapter is gonna be powerful enough to. It's gonna be interesting because I have a third-party AC adapter that is strong enough where I can play it and it'll charge. But I wonder if the one that comes out of the box is going to be strong enough for you to plug it into the wall and you can still play it handheld without it like losing battery still.
It's nice that the Switch 2 is still so far behind the times they don't have wireless charging.
Yeah. You know, that'll be with the OLED model, I'm sure.
Now, that'll be like the Switch 6.
Same thing with the Hall Effect Joy-Cons, which has been confirmed is not in the launch model Switches. So that means we could still get Joy-Con drift.
Yep.
They said that they're made from the ground up as better than the originals. Obviously, that magnetic thing and being really stuck on the console helps a lot, but they could still drift. So another thing when we get to the OLED, I wonder if they will add that in. Because they won't care so much about price because the OLED will already make it more expensive. So,
and all the people who bought it originally, they just get asked out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are mad that there's not an OLED version already. But Nintendo's always been like this. They don't do the 2 SKU thing with more memory and all that stuff. They always do it like this, where here's the original version. We'll get a Switch 2 Lite at some point, probably within a year or so. That's only handheld, very much like the Switch 1 Lite. And then at some point, we'll get the OLED version with maybe more memory and some other stuff that's not in this one. Right?
Right.
That's what Nintendo does.
Yep.
So you don't have to buy this. You can wait until the OLED version is out if that's the one you want.
I mean, you don't have to buy it at all in the first place. So
that's what I'm saying. You don't. You can also, the problem was I couldn't trade in my Switch 1 because the stupid kickstand was so flimsy, I lost it. So I didn't want to take it to GameStop and they go, oh yeah, we can't take this. And also I have like a permanent blue mark on the screen from dropping it. So they probably wouldn't take it because of that either. So thankfully it's never got worse.
You know what's impressive about my Switch? I never took it out of the dock, and it doesn't have any of that bullshit.
Nice.
It's just dusty, but it's still the same as when I bought it 6 years ago.
Fair enough. The Switch 2 will not have the eShop music because there's too many videos on the Switch 2 eShop now. So it'll be just like the Xbox and PS. That's why PlayStation and Xbox don't have music either. They just got videos everywhere. So what's the point?
PlayStation has music. Well, not in the store.
When you launch it, but not when you're roaming the store. They want that Wii Shop music,
Right.
It's just not gonna happen, folks. We just gotta. Nintendo's just look. They can't even bring back themes for God's sake.
Right.
So, do you expect them to do that? I don't. They're just not gonna do it. Nintendo Switch 2 first-party games have sizes officially. Mario Kart World is 23.4 gigs, so that only takes up 10% of the console's total storage. Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 edition is 5.7. The Super Mario Party Jamboree is 7.7. Donkey Kong Bonanza is only 10 gigs. That's pretty small for a new game. Yeah.
I mean, it's a Switch game. It's a Nintendo game. That's why. My question is, Microsoft is going to put Call of Duty on this thing eventually. If not the current one, then the next one. Is it just going to be, I'm going to take up the whole goddamn memory?
I would imagine they're going to use that game key card thing, and you're going to use like maybe half the memory, and then you're going to have to download the rest of it. I'm sure it will have to take up a lot of space. It's just.
Well, what if you buy it digitally?
That's what I'm saying. Like you look, honestly, I don't know how you have a Switch phone without an SD card right now. The 32 gigs is ridiculous. 256 gigs will work for if you're gonna buy a bunch of indies or most of the Nintendo like first party, but you buy any of those big third party games.
Yeah, like you couldn't have Call of Duty and Fortnite on this thing at the same time.
No, you can't.
And I still think that's like a problem,
I think one of my biggest games that I have is Final Fantasy X-2 Remaster. That's like 26 gigs.
Yeah.
So I have an SD card, so it's not a big deal, but like I'm just saying, like, even something like that, eventually, if you get to a lot of games that are 30, 40 gigs, like I wonder how much remake is going to take up on this thing.
And it's also not going to be, they said 256 gigabytes in the storage, but realistically, probably like 197, maybe 190.
Yeah.
So,
and the good thing about those micro express cards is that they're faster to store things in, and with internet being the way it is, hopefully your downloads will be happening faster and stuff like that. So
Nintendo's always been great with that.
Yeah. I'm going to be interested to see if the internet, the online play is better at all on the Switch. Like, obviously, what we've seen is with them using game chat, which looks terrible. But I wonder if it is better just trying to play a game.
They never even ironed out the Switch one stuff. And it's like, why should I be paying for a service that barely functions?
Yeah, and now they're adding the GameCube games, and I imagine if those have multiplayer, that's going to be interesting.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes eventually. I'm sure there will be more Switch 2 information this entire week. So as they get ready for the 17th to come around, which is next week, for that Mario Kart World Direct, will we get a date for the pre-orders? We'll have to see.
I
on that
imagine
this week.
middle of like May now.
You think so? We're gonna
Yeah,
get to the middle of May.
because they're going to sort of try to crank out as many as they can.
I feel like they're gonna have to get. They're gonna get to the end of this month, and they're gonna have to make a decision.
Yeah,
Because you're getting, if you're still sticking with June 5th, which they obviously, again, like I talked about, they could delay the launch in the United States to another date, but like I don't think you can get to a month away and you still don't have pre-orders. So they're gonna
right.
have to figure out, so that they're gonna have to make a decision, whether it's like you said, there's gonna be a limited release that's gonna be $450, and then anybody that pre-orders after a certain date, it's gonna be this price.
Right.
Right. They are doing those. They did reveal that apparently all of these things will help you get a pre-order from Nintendo directly if you have Switch Online and you've had it for 2 years without dropping it. That helps you if you played a lot of games on that profile. That helps you. And there's something else that they were looking at. I think it's your like gold coins or whatever. Also, so
Right. Have you
if you're one of
sacrificed?
those people, that doesn't apply to either one of us, because I think I've had Switch Online for a total of like 2 months in those 2 years. So
It's more like if you sacrificed your firstborn child to Nintendo, and then
I mean, it is,
made,
look, $20 for a whole year is nothing when you look
right.
at it, but it's like I just don't play a lot of classic stuff, so it doesn't behoove me, and I really didn't want to pay the $50 for the expansion pack thing.
I mean, if it, like I said, if it worked, I'd pay $20, no problem. But
Yeah,
it doesn't work. So, and
yeah,
Mario Maker 2 is still fucked up. No,
lots of
to this day,
issues.
yeah. And it's like, okay, Mario Kart may work, but it's like, okay, one game out of 100 or
Right,
150 or whatever is not a great batting average.
definitely not. But all right, I think that's it for this week. Like I said,
Yep.
most of the news was Switch 2 related.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and look at the games that are coming out this week here. Like I said, South of Midnight is out now or tomorrow, whenever you're listening to this. Go check it out if you have Game Pass. Asgard's Fall, Viking Survivors comes out on PC. Commando's Origins, the game that I said was also coming to Game Pass, hits PS5, PC, and Xbox on the 9th, along with Descenders Next, which is also going to be in Game Pass. That comes out on the 9th as well. Blueprints, which is going to be PS Plus and Game Pass. That's a great puzzle game from all the looks of it. That comes out on the 10th. So definitely some things to look forward to there. Game Over, a musical RPG, comes out on PC on the 10th. Monaco 2, which has gotten a lot of publicity there, it comes out on the 10th as well for the current stuff, barring Switch. Pocket Bravery as well comes out on the 10th. The Talos Principle Reawakened comes out on the 10th. Are you
I won't get it, but I like Talos Principle well enough. I'm sure it'll be a good little remake or
yeah.
remaster.
A lot of folks like that game, so good on y'all for wanting to play that. And of course,
They aren't making Portal 3, so got to do something.
yeah, for sure. Chains of Freedom comes out on the 15th, along with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming to PS5. Are you
I'd like to play
interested in?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jens isn't going to get it. So, I mean, if
Oh
it
yeah, I
drops
can
to
see.
$20, then I'll grab it.
I'm sure it will at some point. I'm hoping for Microsoft's case that this does well. The pre-orders seem to have done well. So we'll see how well it does for Xbox. And yeah, the Monument Valley games come to Switch. Hot Rod Mayhem also comes to everything on the 15th. So yeah, a few cool things coming this week worth checking out.
Yep.
Until then, see you later, everybody.
Well,
Bye.